Chapter 24. I am Malcolm Teller. All alone back in the hospital, Lake called out for her mother. "Mama!" There was no answer. Tears began to well in her eyes, and soon a steady stream ran down her cheeks. After some time, she felt the presence in front of her. Thinking it was Adam, Lake looked up, but instead of her brother, she saw the young boy from the forest. He didn't say a word, but he held out his hand to help her up. Lake stood up, and they started walking. As they walked hand in hand, waves began to crash down into the large, dark hallways of the hospital. As the water rushed past them, the force of the waves began to loosen their grip until their embrace was ripped apart. The two kids were swept away by the current. Although desperately trying to get back to the young boy, the two were separated and forced further and further apart. Lake could see the boy calling out for her, but she couldn't hear what he was saying over the crashing waves. He disappeared into the water and darkness. Lake pleaded, "No!" But there's no one there to listen. Just as she was being pulled down beneath the tide, she heard a familiar voice in her head. It was the girl from the hospital. She instructed, "You have to listen." Lake cried, "I can't hear him." The voice called out to her again, "Just listen." As the sun came up over the forest, it was still raining, but not as hard. It was now more of a slow drizzle. By all accounts, it was a beautiful morning. The night before, the forest seemed like a pitch-black war zone, but today it was peaceful, and the sun shimmered and shone off the wet plants. Adam felt the head of the child. His fever was gone, and his color had returned to his face. He was a handsome little guy. He had long, light brown hair that fell over his eyes in the front and lay on his shoulders in the back. The children all started to wake up. Lake got up first, gasping for breath. Adam quickly looked over with concern. Realizing she was awake, Lake noticed her brother. So, she began to cough to mask her reaction, then mumbled, "Must have swallowed a bug." Adam was on high alert, but after hearing her explanation, his body began to relax, but only slightly. Lincoln started yawning and wiping the dew from his eyes. Jack rolled over on his side for a minute, then sat up. Nobody was talking. Verona was still asleep. Adam looked at her. Even though Adam thought she was arrogant and bossy, Adam couldn't help but think, as the sun was shining on her, as she lay sleeping, but she looked like an angel. He didn't want to wake her up, and he didn't have to, because a few seconds later, her little brother shook her violently. The last to get up was the boy. When he awoke, he sat up and looked at the group. He was the first to speak. He mumbled, "Stick together." Lincoln whispered, "What does that mean?" "Let's listen to him," Lake instinctually suggested. The boy just repeated, "Stick together," this time more clearly as he became more alert. Maybe that's what his parents told him before they were separated, Jack guessed. Verona bent down to get eye level. She smiled at the boy and started talking. "Don't worry, we are all going to stick together. I'm Verona. What's your name?" The boy didn't say anything. Verona continued, "We found you walking in the storm last night. How did you get out in the woods? Do you know where your parents are?" The boy reached into the collar of his coat and pulled out a lanyard that was hanging around his neck, with what looked like a luggage tag on the end of it covered with plastic. The boy handed it to Verona. She took it and noticed it had writing on it. She read out loud, "I am Malcolm Teller. My parents are Samuel and Yvonne Teller. I live at 2477 Oracle Road, San Antonio, Texas. My birthday is on October 30, 2015. I have autism. If you find me, please call my mom and dad at 345-505-6745. Verona finished reading, snuck a peek at Adam, then looked at the boy and said, "It is nice to meet you, Malcolm. We are going to help you find your parents." Adam then asked, "Were you on the train?" Malcolm turned and looked at Adam and whispered, "Hold him." Adam stared at the boy for a few more seconds, then nodded to Verona and Jack, gesturing for them to follow him outside, away from the others. The three huddled together to figure out their next move. Jack said, "It's simple. Who has a phone? We will just call his parents." Adam wrinkled his eyebrows and gave Jack a sneer, saying, "You think I'm made of money? I don't own a phone." Jack replied, "Don't look at me. My parents don't even know I exist." Verona looked a little embarrassed, but smiled and exclaimed, "I have a phone. It's in my backpack." Verona looked through her bag and grabbed her cell phone. It was still wet, but the screen was on, and it looked to be in working order. She looked at it and happily said, "It's very low on battery, but it looks like I have a little juice left." Then, her expression changed when she realized that there was no cell service. When she thought about it, it was not surprising, due to the fact that they were very deep in a forest, who knows where in the world. Adam felt ashamed and put his head down, saying, "It's because of me that we are in this mess." Jack looked at Adam and demanded, "What are you talking about? Who knows what would have happened to us back at the train? I was just scared when I suggested that we should do nothing. You led us straight to this tree, and if not for you, Malcolm would still be lost. He may not have even survived the night. I should have been brave like you. You fought those bullies. You got us off the train, and now we're here. We just have to keep walking." Verona nodded as Jack spoke and then added, "It was dangerous and very risky, but you did lead us to Malcolm, so I guess it turned out to be a good decision." Adam appreciated Jack's words. He realized how different he had been acting since leaving home. He was no longer standing on the sidelines, but really acting. Even so, Adam still didn't believe Verona and thought she was being a little sarcastic. Instead of responding, he looked into the sky, then said, "The sun rises in the east, and we need to go west. So we need—" Before he could finish, Verona pointed and said, "That way." Adam glowered before agreeing. "Yes, that way."